Welcome to Go. While all the attention right now may be on the federal election, here on Shaw TV, we like to keep it local. So in today's show, we're paying a little trip to Squamish Municipal Hall. Like any city, Squamish has had its fair share of controversy and celebration in 2015. And what better person to talk to about it than Mayor Patricia Heinzman. Welcome to Go, only on Shaw TV. I'm your host, Vanessa Ybarra, standing next to the woman who's the eyes and ears of Squamish, Mayor Patricia Heinzman. Thank you for taking the time to speak of us, first of all.
It's my pleasure.
You're always very busy, I'm sure.
It's a good opportunity to get out of the office in this beautiful day.
Exactly.
So it's not bad.
Breathe a little, for
Yeah.
sure. Today's show we're talking about the year that was in Squamish, tying into, of course, it's election time right now more federally. But let's just talk about the year that was here in town. What social and also economic things happened that you're really proud of this year to speak about?
Yeah. Well, I think you've seen the town sort of have a bit of a paradigm shift this year. The whole sort of vernacular of the town is a little bit different. It's really high energy, lots of young people moving in here, opening businesses. You're starting to see, for example, a cluster of the sort of craft beverage industry starting to happen in the business park. There's a distillery, Gillespie's Distilleries there. There's a roasting company for coffee. There's a new microbrew. So you're starting to see that kind of entrepreneurial spirit happen there. Of course, in the business park too, we've got all the climbing gym and the trampoline gyms and probably a bike park, an indoor bike park. So you've got this real sort of buzz happening there. Of course, we've just finalized the oceanfront deal, which will be transformational for the community. So that's really exciting. We're finally get to realize that we're actually an oceanside town. We're actually on the ocean, and we can take advantage of that and that interface with the community.
Squamish is an amazing town that way. You've got, from the ocean front, you got perhaps Garibaldi at Squamish also proposed, but there's something in every little corner, it seems, of different areas.
Well, I think it's interesting, like once there's a buzz, it just self-generates.
Yeah, very exciting time right now for sure to be in Squamish. Okay, more with Patricia later on in the show. We're also going to talk about some services you offer here at City Hall. You got a nice new website as well. Let's go to our first story of the day here. Just like keeping up with politics can sometimes seem like a workout in itself, it's nothing compared to one runners here in Squamish. It may be routine, but it's one Squamish runner Kimberly Dodge couldn't live without.
This particular trail I will hit probably once to twice a week. I just like the feeling of being outside. You kind of get this feeling of flying.
And this woman has certainly done a lot of flying in the last year.
I did 4 triathlons this summer.
Kim competing in the Subaru Vancouver, Stanley Park, and Squamish Triathlon, where she nabbed a silver medal, with the athlete also successfully completing her first half marathon earlier this year. It's hard to believe, aside from the odd 5 or 10K run in her early 20s, she only officially took up running in 2013, and it all began while volunteering for the Whistler 50 Relay and Ultra event.
Everybody going by in 2 hours, 2.5 hours, they were having a great time and I missed it, and I wanted to get back into it. I set certain goals for myself. I could do about 10 or 12 minutes before my legs started to hurt and the pain started. And once that was taken care of, I could go further.
The Squamite holding true to her promise, eventually competing alongside her team in the 2014 event. Well, fast forward a year later, and along with running, Kim's been spending the last 7 weeks training to gear up to compete once again in the Whistler race, taking place this year, October 17th.
It's a 50-mile route, which is 80K when you convert it. So it's a 420-kilometer route. So start and finish is at Whistler Olympic Plaza in the village. Then the racers go along Village Stroll, down around the golf course.
As part of the race, which also loops around Meadow Park, Fitzsimmons Creek, the Valley Trail, and more, competitors can either run the entire route themselves or break it up using teams of 2, 4, or 8. With Kim's trainer Paul Romero competing in numerous enduro races throughout the world, he too knows of the dedication and strength required for long-distance events.
In your heel, so yep, it's gonna make it to the back. Very nice, very nice. You've got to be darn fit, that's for sure. 3, 2, 1, go. You've got to have the whole picture dialed in. Kim is improving in her mobility and her agility. So that's really the conversation happening these days. And I like to move athletes to be more mobile in their back and their hips and just opening things and lengthening things. And that brings about injury prevention and it just makes you faster.
It does take a lot of time and dedication, and you have to put in the hours, you have to put in the work. If you're consistent and a little bit more every week, you will see gains, and you can do it. Everybody can do it.
With the Whistler Run marking an overall end to BC's race season, this passionate jogger already has her sights set on 2016.
I'll probably try to add another couple half marathons next year.
However, for Kim, today is simply about enjoying a meditative jog throughout the valley, with this new life path teaching her something along the way.
You'll regret it if you don't do it. I just wasn't willing to give up on myself.
Over the last 5 years, the Whistler Relay and Ultra has raised over $30,000 for Whistler, Pemberton, and Squamish food banks. So if you want to take part in this year's event, just be sure to bring a non-perishable food item. Okay, well, we're inside here, the council chamber, where your committee meetings, Patricia, you're saying take part every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Lots of issues obviously are discussed in here. So let's go on that topic. What are the main issues, of course there always are in a city, that we're facing right now as we head into fall, winter?
Well, certainly the biggest issue facing the city right now is related to housing. We sort of, you could sort of feel it happening last year, but really January, February came around and our housing prices went up. And when that happens, it's a supply and demand issue. So we don't have the supply and we have the demand. We have tons of people moving here, trying to, start jobs here, start businesses here, but they're having trouble finding a place to live. So it was almost like the development community was caught off guard by this really quick uptake on interest in Squamish. And so they're playing catch up, and we've had quite a few really interesting sort of infill developments come to Squamish. We have set up an affordable housing task force to sort of tackle those very specific short-term, near-term, things that we can do. We're looking at everything from how do we encourage suites and carriage house suites and laneway housing. And this is something that the housing minister actually said, the one thing you can do to help with your housing right away is to make sure you're facilitating and streamlining those types of things. We're even looking at tiny home or micro home policies.
And let's talk the other one. Housing is one you always see on online people talking about, but also LNG is kind of the buzzword right now in Squamish. For people who don't know, where are we at for the progress with that, or lack of there?
Well, the wood fiber site itself, that project, so the project is divided into two pieces. There's the Fortis pipeline expansion piece, and then there's the LNG piece. The WLNG, wood fiber LNG site itself is just finalizing the environmental assessment process. The Fortis piece, predominantly because of insistences from the Squamish Nation, and perhaps a lesser degree with concerns that the city has put forward and the citizens of Squamish have put forward. Fortis is looking at a new routing for their pipeline that will go underneath the estuary and over to the site. So because of that, because they've changed the parameters of their environmental assessment process, they've moved the location of their compression station. It's actually just outside the city boundaries now. It's in the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. They have to open up that for public comment. So that's just started. They have a public hearing, I think, on October 7th. It's this week sometime. And so, it's really in the province's hands now to determine if they get their environmental assessment certificate, if there's conditions on that certificate, and then really it will come down to a final investment decision by the proponent.
And the federal election, you've noticed in the debates, I've noticed that Trudeau will mention, he kind of goes against Harper that way, but you can't separate economy from the environment. They have to go hand in hand. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the environment is your economy. I mean, if you're not able to do that in a sustainable way, you're going to compromise your economy in the future. So it's hand in glove for sure, and yet you absolutely need to be mindful of both. And fundamentally, if we don't have a healthy air, healthy environment, you're not going to be able to grow your economy and provide prosperity and lifestyle and health and wellness for your community. So always have to be cognizant of both, and environment is foundational and fundamental to a strong economy.
Totally. Okay. Well, sorry to cut you off there. There's always more in politics. All right, we'll talk to Patricia after the break here. Let's start to our next story here on Go. While many is just something we are given when we're born, we're going to meet a group of students up in Whistler who are proving there's more to a name.
My name is Luke. My passion is art. Being creative is the way to my heart.
My name is Layla, and I love a good book, read of far off places, or how to cook. My name's Juliana. I love s'mores and the great outdoors.
While these two-line expressions may at first sound like nursery rhymes, for Luke, Layla, Juliana, and the other 20 students here at Myrtle Phillip Community School, they go much deeper.
I feel like now everyone can recognize that I'm a special, valued person in this school.
For the past year, the Whistler grade 4 and 5 students have been working together to create the name song.
Oh yeah, there's something in the name.
Practicing one last time before preparing to sing it in its entirety here in the school library.
I love singing because it brings joy and I feel like I can just express all the feelings that are inside of me.
I only like group singing because then I feel like it's not only me and I've got friends to help me out.
Why don't we just start the song right from the top? Does that sound good?
One of those new friends being Cal's dad, Glenn Mishaw. In fact, it was while playing guitar at a family barbecue in the summer of 2013 that the local musician came up with the idea to expand the tune, celebrating individual expression.
One kid named Nathan Lee, who's also in the school, he got up and he said, let's play the name song. And I hadn't the slightest clue what he was talking about. I had a melody in my head, I started playing some chords. The next thing you know, we're playing the name song. Because there's something in a name.
With only a chorus and a few verses to go by, the father of two soon looked to his son's class to complete it.
This is a song about celebrating who we are as people, who we are as individuals. So I said, here, take what we've got here and go home, think about it, think of something you really love to do.
With each of those submitted lyrics, including Layla's describing her love of books, as unique as the students themselves.
I really do love books. I mostly like to read fantasy.
You had to pick something that rhymed. It was funny.
I like drumming. Once or twice a week I go upstairs and I play on the electric drum kit.
Our vision as a school is to make the world a better place. The premise of the song fits perfectly into the framework of the school and the fabric of where we're trying to develop our students.
Because there's something.
For Glenn, hearing these kids' carefully crafted thoughts, not to mention months of practice, come to life couldn't make him happier. With the school recording the song this past summer, the hope is to eventually share it with other classes and in local programs. With this volunteer's biggest wish that even when the music stops, these serenaders turned changemakers will continue to pass along the important message of just being you.
This is just a little thing that might make a difference. A lot of kids when they're young, if they have confidence, which is not an easy thing to have when you're young, it goes a long way. It stays the same. We all grow up different. It stays the same.
Coming up,
we had so many things that we were connected on different levels, but it was really a spiritual level.
we head to North Vancouver to learn the story behind one unique friendship. Welcome back to the show. We're here on Go talking politics with a woman who knows a little bit about it, Mayor Patricia Heinzman, Squamish Mayor here. And Patricia, we've talked about developments that are coming to Squamish, where the city's going. But let's talk about a big part of it, obviously, to get that information out, the website.
Yep.
I know you rebranded, you mentioned a few months ago. Tell us how that process initially came about.
So the rebranding was a thing we did last term in council, and essentially it was a citizen engagement program. We called it rebranding because we really wanted to find the community's vernacular. What is the community's story? And I think the misperception is that some people sort of think of branding, well, it's a logo and a slogan, and that's just one tiny, tiny part of it. Really, it's about the story and about communicating the story and how that story ensures that you're able to sell the community lifestyle, make sure you're promoting business through that, make sure you're inclusive. And so it's really about creating that vernacular for the community. So we went through this process. It came out with 140 plus sort of recommendations, actions. And so we've systematically started to work on those things. And some of them were reskinning the website, making sure that it's intuitive and you can find things more easily, making sure there's things on there that are providing transparency and open governance so that we can just make sure that citizens feel they have the information when they need the information, that, you know, it's just open and transparent, and that's definitely a goal of councils.
All right, well, more with Patricia later on. We're going to get a little bit more personal with her after this story, but that sounds a little creepy. Nothing too scary, I promise. Let's start to our next story of the day here on Go. We're heading all the way to North Vancouver, where one senior is sharing her love of the coastal region. To some residents, it's simply a place to take out books. For Doreen Lickness,
this is just like a castle. It's just really grand.
Like many people moving to a new city, the 86-year-old felt a little lost when she moved from Kamloops to North Vancouver to be closer to her son in early 2015. Add to the fact she was undergoing radiation treatment, and you can see why the avid reader was so happy to discover this inviting 3-story library right next to her high-rise.
This is an awesome place. And in the summertime, they had a piano out here, and anybody could sit down and play it. I couldn't believe it.
The North Shore's pristine scenery also ended up playing a large part in her recovery, with Doreen recently diagnosed cancer-free.
I do take an understanding that the mountains, the ocean that I look out on every day, it really, really energizes and enables one to heal.
However, the story doesn't end there. Ask Doreen what has truly allowed her to heal and feel welcome in the community, and she'll point to this man.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, Doreen.
Good to see you.
I was closing up shop and she happened to come in. Well, come on down.
Okay.
Yeah, just follow me.
Sean's story of coming to Canada as an African refugee 30 years ago may have been different from the Alberta natives, but that remembered feeling of wanting to belong turned into an instant bond for the two back in the spring.
I know there's lots to be thankful for, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. We had so many things that we were connected on different levels, but it was really a spiritual level. By the way, that book that you gave me?
Yes.
It's wonderful.
I know. I felt safe. I just felt this is going to be good.
This past summer, the City of North Vancouver launched its I Love My City campaign, asking residents to write down 2 things they love about the area, along with producing an online video featuring a handful of locals, including now good friends Sean and Doreen, sharing why they choose to call this place home.
Sometimes focus a little bit on the negative, but for every one negative thing, there's about 100 positive things. And so that's what we want to celebrate, is all those positive things and how blessed we are living here.
For this 25-year hairdresser, it's living in such a multicultural city that has allowed him and made him so thankful for friendships like Doreen's.
The city really embraces you, and you really find the sense of commitment or the togetherness from different cultures.
I think we're going to Chinese.
Chinese, you like Chinese food?
I do.
She really inspired me that no matter what happens in your life, it's important to constantly be positive and being able to change or be willing to change.
As for Doreen, having Sean and other shop owners turn what was at first a dark period of her life into a now exciting new adventure is something this on-the-go optimist will always be grateful for, with sharing that appreciation the least she can do.
I'm enjoying my retirement more than I ever have. I can't say enough good things about North Vancouver. I have lots to see yet.
Tell us, what do you love about Squamish? You can reach out to us on Twitter and on Facebook. Looking forward to your responses. Okay, well, we're inside Patricia's office here. You can't get more personal. You got a lot of personality, I was saying. Some awesome stuff on the walls.
If you're going to spend a lot of time in a place, you might as well make it, somewhere you want to be.
Yeah, that's great. I like the artwork. Tell it's a female mayor, for sure.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about, we said we want to get a bit more personal here. Interesting, you worked for the chief newspaper you were mentioning for 3 years back in the 90s. Had your own magazine, a few other things, got into politics. What year?
2005.
2005, my goodness. And what do you love about being mayor? You were a councillor, like you said, for 9 years, became mayor last year. What are you loving about it?
Well, as a councillor, obviously you're part of a big conversation. You can bring your issues to the table. You have the opportunity to discuss it. As mayor, you have the real opportunity to really facilitate and make sure things are happening in a different way. You work more intimately with the CAO and the senior staff to make sure that those directions of council are being implemented. So you also obviously have a lot more contact with people interested in either investing or developing in Squamish. And the ability to help influence those things or help guide those things is really empowering. You know, it's so totally different from being a counselor. So it's, and I think just being able to connect with the community on that level, like people really, from my experience, really interact really positively with me, and I really enjoy. People come up in your coffee shop all the time and say, hey, you're the mayor, aren't you? And they want to engage in conversation. So that's really exciting, and that certainly happens to a much greater degree as mayor than it does as a councillor.
It's impossible. We've done interviews before on the downtown. I've noticed your hairdresser saying hi, your banker, everyone knows you, which is to be expected.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's exciting, like you said, but a little daunting, I would think, becoming mayor last year. What were your fears going into it?
Well, you always go in with some aspiration. You want to change things. You want to streamline the bureaucracy. You want to make sure we're providing great service. But there's all sorts of parameters and things that are out of your control. Right. You know, the provincial decisions, or there's legislative reasons why you can or can't do something. And then you've always got interesting personalities when you're thrown into this dynamic. Politics is a different dynamic than anywhere else because the electorate puts you in the chair. You're not hired by somebody or you're hired by the electorate. So it's just a really interesting dynamic, and I don't think you see that type of dynamic anywhere else, where you've got this body, this decision-making body called council, and then you've got basically 160, 70 people who are implementing the policies of council,
right,
and making sure that communication, the ideals and the goals and the strategic vision of council permeates the culture, permeates the service delivery. Right. It's a complicated thing to achieve, and it's frustrating when you can't achieve what you envision in your head, and it's not translating to the rest of the community. But people try. We've got really good staff. We've got a young staff. They want to make changes, and I think we're slowly getting there. But it's the whole. I'm a now or not now kind of person. So it's like,
you'll get into politics for that.
The time is now. So I definitely feel I'm trying to push that and make sure that cultural influence is permeating the entire organization. And when it doesn't happen as quickly as you want it to happen or as effectively as you want it, it's a little frustrating for sure.
And you got the whole town to speak to, like you said. They've elected you, which is good, interesting and exciting. So would you say, I was just going to ask you, what's the hardest part about being mayor? Would it be that, or there's got to be something else?
I think the hardest part is you want things to happen more quickly, and you want things to go more smoothly than they ever do. And that's just the uniqueness of personalities, the change in people. Inertia is a very hard thing to change, right? So just making sure you're doing that effectively. And change is always something that if you do it too quickly and you don't do it collaboratively, you can have a rebound effect. So you have to make sure the community's there with you, and then So definitely the most frustrating. Learning how to deal with personalities is definitely interesting, and learning how to really influence the change in a positive way is always an ongoing learning experience, for sure.
And if you see her in a pub on a Friday, let her be. No. Sometimes.
People always apologize. They always start off, I'm sorry to bring this up. It's like it happens, and that's just the way it is. And it's funny, you get to the point where you're like, you don't even know how to have conversations other than about the topical issues. Yeah. So sometimes you do just need to turn off and recharge, for sure.
All right, well, we're back here inside the council chambers. Patricia, I think we've talked about pretty much everything politics in a nutshell. But you want to mention before we leave, you're working on the OCP plan right now. Tell us that process, residents can get involved.
So the OCP is the official community plan, and it's really the foundational document to everything else that we do in the city. And fundamentally, it's a public engagement process. We want the community to be involved. We want their input. We want them to be saying how this community will grow, how this community philosophy will grow, how the economic development will grow. And sort of the underlying thing for all that is the official community plan. So essentially, we've just entered into that phase right now. There'll be a significant community engagement on a very multi-layered, we actually just are in the midst of choosing the proponent that's going to help sort of guide this process to help the community really become integrally involved in it, because really it's only as good as the community who comes out and participates. So we really want to encourage that. And then it's the document that, of course, if a developer comes in and wants to develop something, they look at this document and say, okay, my land use is going there, and it talks about the economic development. They make sure that the businesses they're bringing in fit in with the strategies that are outlined in the OCP. It outlines environmental prescriptions, all sorts of different things. So it's really a really important document. We're going to try to make it fun and interesting, and really try to involve a large sort of diverse group within the community. I know it sounds a little dry, but we're going to try to make it really fun, and it's so important for the community to participate in that.
Yeah, and you realize once you start coming, like I said, people when they come here to give their case, that's really what a town is based off of. You update every 5 years, like you said, so get out there and get involved for sure.
Absolutely.
And talk about getting involved, of course, with the federal election coming up. Obviously, we want the youth to vote is the main thing, I always think. Why do you think it is so important to vote?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't think it was important that people participate in their own democracy. And I think, we've become jaded. We give politicians a harder time than maybe they deserve. Politics is not for everyone, but generally speaking, from my experience, at least at the level I'm at with local government, is most, if not all, people are good intention. I mean, they may bring some ego into it, and they may bring a personal agenda into it, but generally people are there because they want to make a difference in their community, and their intentions are pure. But we're highly scrutinized, and it unfortunately, and we don't get paid a lot of money. So unfortunately what happens is you don't get a lot of people either interested in politics, actually being a politician, or you don't get people participating in actual voting, and it's critical. I mean, you have to have, this is your one opportunity to have your say in the future, in the country, in the world, because we do play a role on the world stage and the federal level. So it's critically important to get out and vote, and unfortunately it's statistically proven that younger people don't vote as much. And if younger people voted, the whole political landscape would change.
Totally.
But while younger people don't vote, you're not going to have that change happen. So I really want to make sure that people get out and vote. It's important to exercise that democratic right, and have some fun.
Yeah, it is fun once you get involved. It's never dry, that's for sure.
I'm a bit of a junkie, though. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the polling, as we said earlier. I think it's going to be a really telltale moment.
It will. Well, thanks so much for speaking with me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Thanks, Patricia. All right, well, that's it for today's show. You can follow City Hall also on Twitter and on Facebook. And as always, you can also visit us online. We're on social media, Twitter and on Facebook. And you can view all of our videos in HD on our YouTube channel. Okay, I gotta ask, can I hit the gavel?
Yeah, go for it.
We're gonna close the show. All right, till next time, I'm Vanessa Ybarra.
With purpose. Excellent, good job.